Hey, Instagram, it's me, T from the Pattersons taking trains to Tibet. Yes, it's we're in blue light, so shout out to Blue Light Brigade. And if it's blue light, that means there's going to be a grand rising pretty soon. You know, grand rising, sunrise. Other people say, well, other people say morning, like you know, I got a lot of, I got a lot of good mornings yesterday morning. This is a Monday morning right now. I'm saying that because I went to church with my sister yesterday, right? Because we're in Norfolk, When look, did you know? Okay, hold on a second. Let's back up for a second. First of all, you have to understand. I grew up Catholic, well, until I was about 17 years old. At the you know, that's when the priest used to come around to everybody's house. They used to come to my grandmother's house first because she was a really good cook, and they reported my grandson. I said, look, I ain't with this Catholic church no more. So the priest came on. You had a little short discussion. He was talking about this and that. He said, well, he brought up Malcolm X. I said, yes, that's part of it. There was but I wasn't really answering him. So anyway, so since 17, I was like out, officially out, right? And periodically, I hang out here and there. Then when I got much older, well, much older, I have all these kind of, I don't say religious. I hang. Let me. For a long time, people say, "Well, would you believe in God or something like that?" So I'm like I came across this thing. I'm a deist, right? A deist is like, deist is that's what Thomas Jefferson, all them people, Benjamin Franklin, all those people were, right? And it's a French thing. It basically means that God threw everything together. Then he said, you all got it, and left. They call it like the clockmaker. The clock is working, the clock is ticking, it's doing all like that. And I sort of, but I found out a lot of people didn't know what a deist was. Then I started hanging out with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. When I said hang out with people that are whatever, I started listening to Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. because I'm an acolyte of Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And he called himself, because he's passed now, peace and blessings on his eternal soul. And he called himself he went to talk about all the different religions he was exposed to, and he called himself an eclectic pluralist. There you go. It's the same thing as a deist, an eclectic pluralist. And basically, and then at the same time, I shouldn't say, I still have, I don't say religious moorings, but I still have, call it the religious moorings if you want, but I have a spiritual advisor, David D. Wright. He's of the Yoruba culture, right? And he said, because he threw the cowrie shells one time, with the shells, and he did a reading. I said, well, you're not you can't belong to any religion. So you can visit you can visit any religion you want, and they'll even accept you in, but you can't. Well, he didn't say they accept you in. That's comes from another place. But the point is, he says, but you can't join any religion. And so, even before then, this is like, even before then, like I was in a synagogue. I was in the holy city of Tubar, hanging out, right? He even thought I was in Marabou there. I would go. Like the Yoruba ceremonies, or any place I bathed in the Ganges River, all these kinds of things. Any place I go, I'm hanging out with in the tabernacle with the Rastas, and whatever. I can go wherever I want. I basically I can hang out in any religion. That's what I'm saying. But I can't belong to any religion. But I like I know the cat. Well, down here in Virginia, in Norfolk, Virginia, they have it's called St. Mary's of the Immaculate Conception, right? And when my sister came there, that was the church that she went to, and I visit I go to church with her, support. I'm here to support my peoples, I mean? My sister's one of my peoples. Wherever I go, I support, I'm not the focal point, I'm the supporter. Like I'm the second in command or the third in command, not even command. I'm just hanging out, giving them moral support. And so that's our church. In fact, my niece went to that. I gave a presentation in the school one time. I gave a presentation on audio drama. Yeah, I did a little audio drama presentation. This is long ago. My sister was in grade school, whatever it was, like that. It was a hip school too, because back then, oh man, this must have been in the 90s. Yeah, it must have been in the 90s. Yeah, it was the late 90s. I gave a presentation, but I liked the school because it's a black school. Well, it's a Catholic school, but it's a black school. You have to understand, the Catholic Church, they have this habit of if you look at Catholic churches, they usually are located in the middle of the ghetto, in the middle of projects. Right, like St. Rita's. My sister went. My niece went to. My sister went to St. Rita's, which was in middle of the in the Patterson project, surrounded St. Rita's. Like that was our church when I was growing up. Well here, St. Mary's Immaculate Conception. Again, they're there, and there was a projects around. I say it was a projects around because I just did this, and there's no more projects. They done leveled them projects. There's no more projects, right? Anyway, back then, what happened? How would they start? They would start the day. How would they do it? They would do. I think they would do a prayer, something like a prayer, a Catholic kind of thing. They would turn, and there was they would do the Negro National Anthem. Lift every voice and sing something like. They would do something like that. Then they would turn and do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. It was a three. I guess it was a three kind of thing. It's a unique school. It's a Catholic school, but that's what they did. They did the Catholic thing. They did the Black American thing, if you will, and they did the American thing, if you will. Very progressive. And back then, in fact, there was a name of Basilica back then when my niece was in was in grade school. But later on, I was just here like 3 years ago, whenever it was. I went to. They finally consecrated the church as well. There was named a basilica back then, but they finally did the consecration with the cardinal or whoever, the bishop, whoever showed up, right? So now it's officially a basilica, and it's the only black basilica in all of North America. I'm just saying, So I'm gonna get back to something else. So I went to church this Sunday, and this is actually what I wore. I forget my wife made this and has matching pants, and I even had this right here on like that. But when you go into church, you take your hat off, so I guess nobody knew what I was wearing. This is my Ogun cap, which is Yoruba. Don't worry about that part. But anyway, so here's the other thing that I don't like about a lot of churches. You have to take your hat off, and that's like the spirit should come into your thing. I guess the Jewish people with the whatever with the yarmulke with the other thing like that. I always said, no, that's a vain thing. What happened was some dude early on, he just said like, oh, I'm getting bored. Like, let me cover this thing up. I'm just saying, there's all kinds of possibilities. You don't have things started, right? Anyway, so this is what I wore to church, and so at the end, they walk out, and then the priest is outside. And I was hanging out in the church, right? And then when he's walking back in, I shook his head. So, hey, welcome, blah blah. I said, no, I've been here before. When I live in South Africa, when I I said, but it's kind of interesting. The new pope's got to come and visit because I didn't have to finish the sentence. He said, we're working on it, right? Because the new pope is if new pope was Octoroon or whatever part black he is, and he's American, you got to come to the only black basilica in North America. You got to show up. So sooner or later, 2 years, 3 years, the Pope's got to come to Norfolk, Virginia, and go to St. Mary's, right? Anyway, I say all this stuff just to say I'm thinking, and I'm saying like, you are who you surround yourself with, and the way the thing is going right now, I don't think that people really realize, you have to. First of all, as Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. says, you have to have a code. A lot of times when I go visiting other things, I'm checking out the code, right? Like the code of the church. The church has a code. You have to have a certain dress when you go. You have to have a certain demeanor. There's certain liturgies, that you do. And I'm thinking, like, man, the way the world's going, what people don't understand is like when they bomb these places and they're doing this raid here and that raid there, they're wearing the baklavas or whatever and somebody dressed in black, no name thing, they just grab you off the street right there. Well, if you allow that, man, that's gonna come back to get you. If you have in other words, these institutions that have codes, they say, no, this code over here that they're creating, this code of snatching people off the street and just doing everything. This is like worldwide. We can't have this. Our code, So these other institutions, they got to stop this stuff from happening. There's only an institution can fight it. It's like only a corporation can fight a corporation. But you got these rich people that can hire these ex whoever they are, military people, dressed them all in black, get a black van, and just grab anybody from any place. You know, it's the sex trafficking thing, whatever. And I'm saying, like, this is, people better start, you know? Well, when you have these wars, all they're doing is testing out ways of killing masses of people. And if the institutions continue to allow this to happen, then I don't want to say you're complicit, but you, by definition, you're continuing what your institution is supposed to be against to happen. So Blue Light Brigade, yes, no. Oh, I got a mosquito out here. Mosquitoes always protect your ear. So anyway, so that's what's on my mind this morning, and that one more thing I was thinking about. I keep on thinking, who was the worst president? I would say for black people. Let me put it that way. Ever. I keep on thinking of it. There's only one, Bill Clinton, the worst. Everything, and again, let's go back to what they attacked. Look, the hip hoppers, you know what I mean? They this and that, they swag and say, no, even these groupings, you didn't protect your own. Back then, when Bill Clinton was dumping on Sister Soldier, you didn't protect her. You didn't come to her aid. And what happened? Well, he got elected, but not only that, but he gave your movement a bad name. So what I'm trying to say, if you're part of a movement, if you're part of a class, and you say, I speak for this, I speak for that, then you better have an institution. Your institution better act when they start attacking your institution, the peoples of your institution. Otherwise, they'll just yank your behind off the street, put you in some jail cell in some foreign country. This whole El Salvador thing is quite funny. I haven't been following Max Kaiser recently, but this is really not hilarious, but it's kind of interesting. You know what I mean? Now they got, you can snatch somebody from one country and throw them in another country's jail, and it'd be all right. You see? So institutions, countries, whatever have you, whatever groupings, you know what I mean? So you find you. Look, if you think you're alone and you think you can escape by sitting on the side and being a bump on the log, then you're sadly mistaken. You're just sadly mistaken. Because sooner or later, you're hiding out somewhere, they're going to come and get you too. That's all I'm saying, and it's been said time and time again. I have one more thing to say, or maybe I'll say it another time, because I get these not DMs, I have dialogues with certain people online, and there's this one cat from South Africa that's hilarious to me. Like, maybe I'll deal with him tomorrow. Okay, so let me let you go. I just wanted to come to you in blue light, and sunrise is going to be pretty soon. But you know what to do with sunrise? You do exercise, a little, whatever have you. Probably we're in don't worry, where we are. We are, and it's springtime. You hear the birdies out here, and I like it out here in the morning like this. Morning meaning grand rising time, right? So grand rising. Talk to you later. Be well.